Hi, have you ever seen those commercials on TV showing neglected animals and you've wondered what the rehabilitation process is like? Well, today I'm going to give you a little bit of insight on that process by talking to you about care for emaciated horses. My name is Mackenzie Lamberson. I have a bachelor's degree in natural horsemanship and a lifetime of experience with horses. And unfortunately, I've also dealt with emaciated horses myself. So I'm excited to share this with you and talk to you about the subject. Care for emaciated horses generally consists of three things in this order: providing a proper environment, providing proper veterinary care, and providing a professional nutrition plan. Environment comes first because usually these horses have been neglected and they need to be removed from their homes. Um, there was a great study by Whitting in 2005 that talked about the importance of environment for these animals. So if you want to look more into what the ideal environment is, I definitely recommend checking that out. You're going to need something with shelter that's going to take them out of the elements. They won't be able to stay warm. They just don't have the fat stores. They may be too dehydrated to sweat. So you need to take that into consideration. A barn indoors is probably best, or a dry lot with shelter. There was also a study by Witham in 1998 that talked about the importance of feeding intervals and how often is better. So you may even need to be feeding your horse every 2 hours. So you need to consider that when finding the location, because you'll need to be out there often caring for them. The next thing you need to consider is veterinary care. There was an article written by a veterinarian called Johns in 2014 that talked about all the vet aspects of care for an emaciated horse. Some horses may be emaciated because they're overrun with parasites. Some horses may have dental problems that make it painful to eat. Some horses may have severe injuries, such as a halter that's just been left on them and it's kind of grown in their face, or they may have abscesses. And so no matter how good of a diet or environment you provide these horses, they're just not going to get better until a veterinarian addresses this. So that's why it's so important and needs to be addressed, almost sooner than the diet. So last but not least, and probably most obvious, is providing a great diet for these horses. There was an article by Ralston in 2007, and it's a great source for looking at what a healthy diet for a healthy horse should be. Generally, for a 1,000-pound horse, that's 15 to 20 pounds of feed per day. And so to become emaciated, these horses would have had to have nothing to maybe even a couple pounds of feed. And that's important to consider because refeeding syndrome is a very severe and life-threatening syndrome that happens to horses when they've been starved and they're going through the refeeding process. It happens in other animals and humans too. Basically, what happens is the horse has been having nothing for so long, and then they're provided with a ton of food. Their body can't handle it and it starts to shut down. So the refeeding process needs to happen over quite a long period of time, and you need to start them only slightly more than what they've been getting while they've been neglected. So what I did with my horse is I started out with half the recommended amount of forage, so 7 to 10 pounds of hay, and I waited until his digestive system kind of settled down with that before I started increasing it by a pound or a couple pounds per week. It took him about 2 months to get to maintenance on hay. You also need to make sure that you have a salt and mineral block for them. Make sure they're not gorging themselves on it. The same goes for water. They may have been dehydrated for so long or without minerals for so long that they drink too much or eat too much of it and they shock their system, and that's also dangerous. For grain, that's often something that's great to provide these horses to give them more energy. You need to wait until they have kind of adapted to the hay and then started a very low amount. For my horse, I started him at 1 pound of grain per day for 1 week. The next week, I gave 2 pounds per day for the whole week, and then I kept increasing at that interval until I got him to where I wanted to be on the grain. There was a great article written by Ivy in 2017 that talked about the time it takes for recovery. Most horses can gain a maximum of 1 pound per day. So if your horse has 100 pounds to gain, it's going to take at least 100 days. So you need to consider that when developing your feed plan and develop it for a long length of time to slowly increase. Like I said before, from my horse, it took about 2 months to get him where I wanted on hay and 3 months for grain, actually. Most horses may be able to go faster on the hay. It just has to go on a case-by-case basis. You're going to have to be at the barn, seeing how they respond. Are they getting diarrhea? Maybe you need to cut them back. So that's super important that you are there and watching how they respond to the diet, because there's no feed this, the horse is going to be fine. Unfortunately, you just need to be there and kind of go with the flow, change how your horse is, change based on how your horse is responding. And so you can also add things such as oils to add more fat to the diet as needed. This is also going to help them get a shinier coat. And that's about it. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. And ask me any questions you have. Thank you.